Okay, our first inductee tonight will be John MacLellan as an athlete and a builder. And I'm going to ask committee member Gay DeVoe to come forth and do the induction, please, Gay.
Hello. Before I induct our newest member, I'd just like to apologize to everybody here for all the mistakes I'm going to make in the next 10 minutes, because public speaking wasn't one of my best subjects in school. But first off, I'd like to welcome all the clergy we have here today. It's good to see Father Doug back and here to celebrate with Father Albert. That leads me to a little priest story. It's a story about a priest who was on his way to Newfoundland, and halfway over, he accidentally fell off the boat. So nobody heard him. There was no splash. So he's wading in the water for about 20 minutes. All of a sudden, a boat comes by. I want to give him a hand. He said, no, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. So the guy left. He's there waiting another 20 minutes. Another boat comes by, a fisherman. He said, no, I'm okay. God's going to save me. God's going to save me. So he was just wading in the water, and he started to lose his energy. He was pretty well done, and sadly, he drowned. Then he went up to the pearly gates. The first thing he did, he confronted God. He said, God, why didn't you save me? He said, well, I tried. I sent you 2 boats. Anyway, down to business again. John MacLellan was John MacLellan was born and raised in Waterford, educated at St. Agnes and Central Schools, and attended at Savary Junior College, St. FX University, and Nova Scotia Teachers College. John started teaching at St. Agnes in 1964 and quickly associated with James Fox Chesson, driving the basketball and soccer teams. This close relationship continued until the opening of Beck in 1970. John refereed soccer at the high school level and for the Cape Breton Soccer League for a period of 12 years. He was also a member of the International Association of Approved Basketball Officials and later served on the executive as assigning secretary, scheduling officials and treasurers, ensuring officials were paid. He refereed at 2 provincial championships, and he and Gary Burke, one of last year's honorees, refereed the first game in the inaugural Coal Bowl tournament. John retired from refereeing in 1982. The story is that he and Gary were returning from an IAABO conference in PEI, and he heard on the radio that Danny Seaman suffered a heart attack and passed away while refereeing. And that was the end of John's refereeing career. One evening, while having a beverage at the French Club with Gary Burke and John Gillis, a gentleman asked if one of them would complete a foursome for a game of darts. John decided to try his hand at the game, and that was the start of a love of the game that has lasted over 50 years. It also started a lifetime friendship with Lenny LeBlanc. Over the next year or so, Lenny and John decided to start a small dart league on Monday nights. It began with 4 teams, and most of the players were friends and acquaintances of Lenny. In fact, most of the players were coal miners. The league grew to 12 teams in the late 70s and 80s. They played at the French Club, Tompkins Center, Business Club, and finally the Army-Navy for the next 26 years. The league existed for close to 50 years and was considered the premier league in the industrial Cape Breton, attracting players from Waterford, Dominion, Glace Bay, Sydney Mines, Manitou, Louisbourg, Eskasoni, and Bredor. In the 80s and 90s, the league regularly produced 3 to 5 players who played at national championships representing Nova Scotia. John played on a team with Lenny, John Roach, and John Rackey. With 3 Johns on the team, he became Mac, and the name stuck. To this day, when the name Mac is mentioned in dart circles, everybody knows who you're talking about. In 1970, Mac and Lenny started the County League with teams from Dominion, Glace Bay, Sydney, Westmount, Whitney Pier, and Bredor. This league thrived for 6 years, and Mac captained the championship team 3 times. In fact, John has been captaining teams for over 50 years. Mac organized and ran in the Waterford Jubilee Dart Tournament to celebrate the town's 60th anniversary. It was an annual event for 4 years and attracted as many as 20 teams from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland. Mac has also organized these other dart activities over the years. He started the Cape Breton Open Dart Tournament in the early 80s. It was played annually until the late 90s, revived in the early 2000s, and continues this day at the Casino Nova Scotia in Sydney. It is a nationally ranked tournament that attracts players from around the Atlantic provinces. The trophies presented at these are the ones also won by Mac and Chipper McKinnon. Mac also organized the MacLellan Cup, an 8-person team representing various communities around the island. He started darts on Seaside Cable in the 80s. Every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m., you could catch a dart tournament featuring local players. Games were played on Seaside Studios and remotely broadcast from various locals, Kinsman Center, Army, Navy, and Dominion Rec Center. If you have ever played or heard of stake darts, Mac started that too. It continues today as meat darts or grocery darts and is held in many communities in Cape Breton to this day. Most leagues have what's called a snowball. Paul knows about that, where players pay $1 to enter and write your name down, write down the finishes. A draw is held, and if that was your finish, you win. Mac started that too. Mac was the regional director for Cape Breton for the National Dart Federation of Canada for approximately 1978 until 2011, with only a few years break in the middle. The format used by Darts Nova Scotia was a 4-man team from 1978 to 1983, doubles for 1984, and singles ever since. The formats for singles was developed by Mac and Lou Surratt and has been used from 1986 to present day. Back in those days, there was no internet or schedules were not readily available for players, so Mac made them longhand, a tedious job, as boards had to be assigned equally. Most leagues in the area contacted Mac to do their schedules every September. Mac started going to tournaments on the mainland in 1966 and started holding tournaments locally in 1971. It would be 10 years before he had his first big tournament win, the Maritime Open Championship in 1976. This would lead to many more victories, too numerous to recount or even remember, but including the Cape Breton Open and Silver Dart. There are very few tournaments in this local area that Mac has not won. On the maritime scene, Mac has won tournaments on the mainland, PEI, and New Brunswick. Some stand out more than others, such as the Maritime Open 4-man team, which Mac won 4 years in a row in Antigonish. At that time, it was the largest 4-man shoot held in the Maritimes. In the mid-'80s, Sheet Harbour held the largest double shoot with over 80 teams participating. Mac and Chipper won that tournament 4 years in a row. They also won the Atlantic Open in 1988, one of the first shoots sanctioned by the National Dart Federation of Canada. Mac captained the local Army Navy team to 4 provincial titles and took the silver medal in 2 national playdowns. Mac and Chipper won the National Doubles Championship in Montreal in 1989 and the silver medal in 1988. Mac captained a team including Chipper McKinnon, Lou Surratt, and Bob Snyder that won the Nova Scotia NDPC Championships in 1981 and 1982. In the 1981 playdowns, they played in the finals to represent Canada at the World Cup of Darts in New Zealand, but were defeated 4-2 by Ontario. In 1985, he captained the team of Chipper, Lou, and Danny and won the Canadian Open in Regina. They won 4 straight games against a team made up of 4 former Canadian singles champions. In the semifinals against Alberta, the last 4 shots in the deciding game were 140, 140, 100, and a 2-dart finish of 92, triple 20, and a double 12 by Mac. In 1984, John and his wife Marie, an excellent dart shooter in her own right, won the Nova Scotia Mixed Championships, just one of many tournaments in the mixed doubles and the mixed fours with Chipper and Angie McKinnon. In the 1984 Mixed Championship, Mac became the first player to finish 170 in provincial playdowns. Since then, he has finished 177 more times. Unbelievable. Mac partnered with Ed Kosh to win the Atlantic Open in 1995, and in 2016, he and Marie finished third in the Atlantic Open mixed doubles. Not bad for a 74-year-old. Over the years, Mac and Marie have played many tournaments in the United States, consistently finishing in money. Mac has always been a clutch finisher, and I saw that a few years ago at a Boxing Day tournament. He finished the sighting game in the semifinal and also in the final, with no celebration, just to show that he's done it all before. So with 2 national championships, numerous Maritime Open and provincial titles, representing Nova Scotia 10 times at the National, Mac has the love and respect of dart players everywhere, so much that for the last 27 years he has been the honorary chairman of darts in Nova Scotia, the only player ever to be honored that way. And for me, like I've been around darts a long time, and I'm living proof that practice doesn't make perfect, eh? But anyway, and I know Mac, like, with all due respect to the Bat Camerons and the Chipper McKinnons and the Carmel Pashers who were here tonight, and Gay Defoe, and all those great shooters, Mac is definitely the face of darts in this town for over 50 years, without question. And now it is my honor and privilege to induct John MacLellan as our newest Hall of Fame inductee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, reverend clergy, fellow honorees, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me thank the committee for putting my name forward and honoring me with induction into the Waterford District Sports Heritage Hall of Fame. I have many people to thank. I don't know. I have 4 pages here that I'm going to. I don't think I'm going to do it though. I want to thank everybody and thank the committee and thank my family and especially my wife and my family for doing it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. That's too bad for a teacher after all these years.
Can't believe you're so emotional, John. But anyway, I'm John MacLellan. Mr. Chairman and committee clergy, fellow honorees, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me thank the committee for putting my name forward and honoring me with the induction into the Waterford District Sports Heritage Hall of Fame. I have many people to thank, starting with family, those who have passed and those still with us. A special thanks for those in attendance this evening. Agnes and Babes, her sister, her husband Willie Buchanan, brothers Roddy and JJ. You might recognize Roddy and Willie as the 2 guys rocking around town. And I literally mean walking around the town. I actually started walking with them, but I soon found myself at the bargain store corner looking up Man Street and seeing them approaching Sobeys. I knew if I hitchhiked to the Strand corner I could catch up with them, but it's hard to thumb a drive these days. Also here tonight are my two aunts, Maki McIntyre and Flora Beaton. It's pretty nice at the age 76 to have these two special people here. We also have my in-laws, Rose and Johnny Hutchison, and very close friend and fellow member in the hall, Carmel Pasher, in attendance. I had some FaceTime with our son Matthew from Vancouver, daughter Stacy, and grandkids Ben and Ella from Ottawa, as they called to offer their congratulations. That was really nice. So happy to have my mixed doubles partner, mixed team member, and life partner for over 48 years, Marie, here this evening. I never asked her if I could go to a tournament. I just mentioned that there was one. She always replied, "Why don't you go?" That seemed to work well over the years. I'm sure all of you were impressed with the work of Lowell Cormier in documenting the achievements of so many residents of the Waterford and district over the years, and I'd like to give a shout to some this evening. Our late son, Adrian, while not a Nova Scotia champion, did represent the provinces very well twice in the National Youth Dart Championship. Our son Matthew was a Nova Scotia Junior Pianist champion. Marie was a Nova Scotia Dart champion in 1981, and it was usual for her to captain the ladies team and me to captain the men's team at the Nationals at the same time. I don't think that had ever happened before. She was also a Nova Scotia champ in 1984, and when we captured the mixed doubles title. My sister Babes was a two-time Nova Scotia basketball champ in 1960, 1981, first with the Teachers College and then with the Waterford team coached by Fox Chesson. Johnny Hutchison was a member of two hockey teams and a baseball team that were provincial champions, and he's also a member of the Yagi Doggies at the Waterford Tuesday Night Men's Dysfunctional Dart League. Last but not least, my Aunt Maki captured a Nova Scotia title in 1948, representing St. Agnes. Speaking of 1948, about that time, Maki can tell you that at Grandma's, they had a dartboard hung on the bedroom door, and I used to lay on the bed to watch my uncles play. I played in the men's league for a few years, and I learned a lot about the history of darts in the Waterford from Joe McDonnell. He told me that my uncle Simon Naveau was a Waterford singles champion in 1954. Simon was a World War II veteran to whom I played darts in England for a few years, leading up to D-Day in 1944. I was lucky to be associated with great people in darts over the years, including Lenny LeBlanc, who helped start the Money Light League and the County League. Lenny knew a lot of players and many of the minors who joined these leagues. Later, Bozo Steele joined the league, and I learned a great deal from him about running leagues. Bozo was the go-to guy for organizing youth dart tag days. He did all the stats and recorded all the scores when 8 of us shot 1,000,001 matches at the mall for Special Olympics. Bozo went on to nationals with us. Since Mary was on the team, we had a lot of great pictures that bring back a lot of great memories. Robert Denton was a valued member of our Money League, and for many years, captain and executive member. He could always be counted on for a wise and calm advice. When you were putting on a tournament and play down, you need to have people to set up things to run the tournament. I could always depend on Darren Breswa and the late Joe Turnbull to do an excellent job. In later years, I had a lot of help from Chris Gatz. This year at the Nationals, over 3 players from the Waterford, Chris Gatz, Linda McLeod, and Charlie Bennett from the Waterford. But you need to have some people who want to see how far you can actually go in a sport. We were really lucky in darts to have a person in Chipper McKinnon. I was always ready to travel with him to see what we could accomplish. At first, there wasn't a lot of success, but you learn as you go. We learn how to practice and learn how to enjoy the practicing because it really helps when the pressure is on. I owe a lot of debt to Chipper for all he brought to the game over the years. He was very worthwhile, a very worthy representative of our community at the shoots on the provincial, national, and international stage. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, clergy, fellow honorees, ladies and gentlemen, first let me thank committee members for putting, oh geez, I read that before. Anyway, great job, John. Awesome, buddy.
this is not Cooperstown, and it's not the Hockey Hall of Fame, but I think it's really important that the committee represent our own. Thank you very much.